thanks for being here with us. And I know most of you will be watching this as a replay, but we like to be able to talk directly to our audience also. And so thanks for coming. And please be a part of this. The whole point of this is to not have Bob and I be talking. It's to have you be talking. So raise your hand. Mark's in the background, and he'll help us get your acknowledgement that you're there and that you're asking a question. And please, not just a question. You've got some thoughts. You got whatever you want to talk about. Just let's just do it. What's the most favorite podcast that you watch and or listen to, Bob?
The only thing that I really make a point of listening to are two lawyers that appear now only on Rumble and Locals, and it's Viva Fry and Robert Barnes, and then there's a whole cadre of people that they have come in and out, Alex Jones among them every once in a while, and so it gives me, and I'm a lawyer, as many of you may know. So for me, understanding where we are in the world from a legal perspective is always helpful in kind of making things make sense for me. And that's what they give me. I don't always agree with them, but they're right much more often than they're not.
Cool. So I listen to, there's probably three that I fairly consistently watch / listen to. One is Getty and Armstrong, who I believe were the guys that were supposed to replace Rush Limbaugh. Is that right, Bob? You and I talked about that.
No, it's not. No, I think I know who you're talking about. You're talking about Clay
Travis?
Travis, yeah.
Really? Because I actually him a little bit. And I've been to one of his live events. Did you know that, Bob? That's when I think I got COVID back 2 years ago.
Right,
a year and a half.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was Clay Travis, though. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, is it because he's from Tulsa? And remember, I've told you my best friend from high school, Kurt Brestow, knows Clay because he's a Tulsa guy too. So anyway, and I don't know that I listen to a podcast from Clay. I just listen to certain things that he does every now and then. But I listen to Getty and Armstrong, who are political in their event, and they do a daily podcast. So they're a little bit like Entrepreneur on Fire. Why am I forgetting John Lee Dumas?
Right.
But John Lee Dumas's are recorded. Getty and Armstrong are live. So they actually do a live podcast daily.
Are they on YouTube or what are they on?
I listen to them on Spotify, I believe. You can listen on Variety. No, you know what? I listen to them on Apple Podcasts is where I listen to them.
What about Joe Rogan?
Rogan, I listen to. I have his. And when I listen to him, I'll listen to that on Apple Podcasts also. I probably listen to most of what I listen to. And you're saying the right word. I listen most of the time. Lance Armstrong was going to be the last one because I'm a huge cycling fan. And Lance does an amazing podcast with a couple of other guys that are his co-hosts. Actually, 3 others that are at times. George Hincapie, who used to be also a very high-level professional bike racer, and a guy named, am I forgetting his name? He was his coach. He was Lance's coach for quite a time. Interestingly, never for Clyde or at all involved in his name all in truck, even though he applied for Volvo, he was the coach, which has always been strange to me. Because as you know, Lance has even admitted, that he did use finally after much consternation on his part. And Hincapie was actually stripped of a bunch of titles too, but I don't recall him ever actually admitting that he was a user. But anyway, I love that. Lance and George probably do the best ongoing analysis of the world cycling circumstances, so all the races that are going on in the world, of anybody in the world. And Lance is a very good commentator and very good analyst of cycling. And that's actually a video. So that's done, and they do show it live, but they realize that most people are going to watch it in in arrears also as a replay. But anyway, those are the ones that I follow the most. I'm sure there's others that I could get excited about. Yeah, you've talked about the Barnes one forever, and I should probably, can you get that on Apple, or do you have to go to Rumble to get that?
They're only on Rumble, and then they have, subscriber content. That's the best part of it, which is on locals, and you have to subscribe for that. And, he calls it Bourbon with Barnes. So people send in questions all day long. And then sometime that evening, while he's having a drink, he answers all the questions. And he does that 3 or 4 times a week. And then once a month, I should say, on Rumble, which anybody can get, they do a Freeform Friday with these other 2 guys, one of whom is a National Lampoon ex-writer for the National Lampoon. He lives in Hollywood and does TV and movie production stuff. And he's a very funny guy. And they get into a lot of good stuff. His name is Mark Grolbert. And they have a show called America's Untold Stories. So they go behind the scenes in a lot of things. So a good example is the JFK assassination. They have an individual show for every individual that was involved in the assassination. I mean, the Parkland doctors, the Secret Service people, the FBI that was there, and so on and so forth. And the background
By the
behind.
way, we should be respectful of probably the vast majority of our audience. You guys probably don't even know when JFK was, or Robert F. was assassinated. And you probably have heard they were, but they both were. And the JFK one, at least, is very controversial. So that's why it's had much. RFK's is not so controversial. It was pretty clear but everybody should know those occurred in 1968 for Robert F. Kennedy and 1964. Is that right, Bob? For
three for Kennedy. For JFK was 63. Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King. If you don't know about that one, you should know about that one too. That was 1968. Both of those. Robert Kennedy Sr. and Martin Luther King were 1968.
And those are, it's scary to me. This is a topic for a discussion sometime, not today, but that young people don't even know the circumstances of those, probably, and of 2-3 people that are incredibly important in U.S. history. So fortunately, we haven't had a lot of those high level.
It wasn't so much the content. That was just an example of the kinds of things that they cover. And I find them both informative and entertaining at the same time. So that's kind of what I have been following. I've tried to do the Joe Rogan thing, and there are occasions when it's really worthwhile, but he does 3 hours every day, and I don't have time to listen to 3 hours every day.
3 hours a day? Does he really?
A day. He just did one with Russell Brand, within the last 2 weeks, and I found that fascinating.
Yeah. By the way, if you don't know Russell Brand, he's a comedian and again been very much in the news lately. And I don't follow him that much, but why has he been in the news? What has he done recently, Bob? I'm not sure.
Well, notably, he started his own podcast from England. He's English, and he's an ex-drug user, if you believe what he says, although the way he acts, kind of wonder. Very hippie-looking, thin actor, comedian. And, I was aware of him until recently, when everybody became aware of him when he went on Bill Maher and blew up the Bill Maher show. That's kind of where it all started recently.
Yeah. That's where it came from. That's why I think he's become well known lately.
Yeah.
So you're questioning whether he is a recovering drug. You're saying maybe he's still got it. Looks.
Well, let's
maybe
just say if
appears.
he's not doing speed, he really goes pretty fast. All I can say. I have trouble keeping up with him because he speaks very fast and British accent on top of it, so it doesn't make it more difficult.
So where does Rogan store all his replays? All of the suspect places? So Apple, Spotify?
As far as I know, it's all on Spotify, and then once in a while they'll do a clip on YouTube from his full episodes. But mostly, I think he's got a deal with Spotify, exclusive deal with Spotify.
Mark, would you scroll down and show everybody at the bottom of our current webpage where they can get to our podcast? So all of these episodes more in the recent past are going to be in both webinar format that we primarily store on our own site because that's where we make some revenue from. And then podcasts, which are free, by the way, that we have both on really 3 places. You can listen to them here on our site, Spotify, Apple, and Google. And anywhere else, Mark? Am I missing any place? Okay. Oh, you can do those there. We put up new stuff.
I think Wayne's having problems with his audio.
We've talked about that the last 2 weeks, so I want to just show everybody we're making progress. We're not there yet. Did I break up a little?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Did I break up, everybody? Okay. And that's, by the way, that's Starlink. And it doesn't happen very often. And Starlink switches satellites. So we have Starlink for our internet here. And Starlink is the Musk-owned program that uses a series of satellites. And when it switches satellites, there will be a complete turnoff of our internet for a very short period of time. So that must have occurred then. Because I don't recall Mark telling me, Bob, as I've done a whole bunch, we're back to doing lots of webinars and podcasts / here on EAT. So we've got 4 or 5 many weeks now, which is cool, which is where we want to be. So before we started, everybody, Bob told me that there was a question that I should ask related to his hat. So I'm going to go ahead and ask that. Bob, tell me what the significance is of that number 13 on your hat.
Okay. So most people probably won't know this. So the last 2 summers I have spent in Bandon Dunes, which is a golf resort on the southwest coast of Oregon. And when I got there, I discovered 2 things happened simultaneously. One, I discovered there's a little par 3 course that people spend an hour or 2 on, between rounds or after they've played golf. And those of you who don't play golf probably won't understand what a par 3 course is, but it's a short course. Anybody can play it. You can play it with a beer in your hand, a drink in your hand, and just have a good time. It's not serious golf. It's just going out and enjoying being outside and being with your friends. So 13 is the number of holes that are on that course. It's called the Preserve. And I think this is the side. You can see the image of the 13. And there's a flower that is a endangered species flower, and the course is dedicated to preserving that flower. It's got some name botanical name that you guys would understand, but I don't remember what it is. Well, the significance of the 13 that's number 1. Number 2 is I got housing, and the housing number of a tiny house, 100 square foot house that I stay in when I'm there, also number 13. And it all chimes back to this issue, which is my lucky number, I'm a contrarian, as maybe you've figured out by now, is 13. And when my dad died in 2001, my mother and I were going through some of his things, and he had something on it with 13. And I said to my mother, what's this? Knowing my number was 13. She said, oh, your dad's lucky number was 13. I never knew it. So the significance to 13 to me is important. And the significance of 13 for our discussion is that I went to Bandon Dunes and caddied for 2 years. I'm going to be 77 next month. And I did it because of Chi Golf. And so if anybody's interested in finding out more about how I did it and why I did it and how it can help you, go to chi.golf. It's part of our community and check it out.
Yeah, by the way, that is a business that is I'll call it sponsored by, but highly supported by, and is very, very economic in our beliefs. So, so please, everybody, if you haven't been there, by the way, we have two of our amazing audience contributors that are on, and I don't think that either one of them have ever talked with us live. And one of them in particular, who is just amazing at helping us and giving us content, Alicia Rose, and then Hans is also on. If you guys would be willing, take a few minutes, we'd love to unmute you and let both of you say hi to us, talk a little bit, and particularly Hans, just because he's got some very cool stuff as it relates to posture pain issues, Bob, that you should relate. Yeah, so I'd love to have Hans unmute himself, or let Mark unmute him and come on and talk. So there's some a little bit about his site, Bob. Anyway, and we've interviewed so many people now, everybody, over the last now almost 7 years. We're going to have our 7th anniversary in June. That I'm not remembering. Some of them, I remember the people. But Hans, have we ever done an hour presentation with you? And if not, we need to, if you want, if you're open to it. But anyway, if you can, maybe in the next, let's say 10 minutes from now or so, 5 minutes, we'll unmute you and let's chat a little bit. Bob, that is so cool about your hat. And again, now changing subjects a little, I know John has said maybe he can't be helping you out as much with the price points that you're looking for some of the promotional stuff that you'd like to be doing. But let me tell you what is now new on Kajabi, and this is really for all of us. They have partnered with a group called Spring. And Mark, if you bring up the Spring site, and I think it's sp.ring.com. I'm not positive about that, but they are a promotional materials manufacturer. Let's call it distribution, where you can buy one-offs of a hat, of a shirt, of a mug, of anything that you would be promotional, and either just have it or make it available for sale. So that's the reason they partnered. And I'm not convinced they partnered. I actually think Kajabi might have bought them. They haven't said that, but and they're literally just now rolling out how we can use them. And so we have not yet put anything of theirs on our site. But I'll give an example, and their prices are amazing. We can sell T-shirts with whatever logos we want on them for $26. And this is either cotton or a combination of kind of, that's not it. That's not the site, Mark. There's going to be lots of sites called Spring. This is a promotional material site. So look for it without putting it up on the screen. So let's go back. And then once you find it, put it up. Yeah. Leave Hans's up for now. It's either sp.r. So do a Google search for it. You'll find it, but it's a promotional material. So anyway, back to my thought. $26 we could sell a T-shirt for, which would be a great price. A hoodie for $33, great price. And we're only paying about half of that. We make a 50% margin from it.
And you can give them logos to add to whatever the merchandise is? Perfect. Exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah. you can either give it to them, or it's even easier. You can do your custom work. See, the intent is what we want to use it for. Is you could just have the logo, have whatever you wanted, maybe logo with even some other, other verbiage, and you could do all this online. So you don't have to send them something or whatever, but you can do that also. So it's very interactive. It's which you can imagine. That's why Kajabi, I think, is interested in it.
YouTubers that I follow that are very active have that feature to support them, and then it advertises them. I'm not that active in posting YouTube because I mostly just use it as part of my teaching, so that I would give people a link to a specific video where they could learn a certain method for supporting themselves. But it's very hard to.
Awesome.
And the other two are fitness and strength, and the basic healing part is qigong.
I'm going to switch gears to another one of our attendees, Alicia, that I mentioned earlier, because we talked about a person last week, Bob. Alicia says, Joe Pinella is back. Alicia, let me ask you one question related to that. So she gives a link to his Facebook page. Is that recent, Alicia? Just put it in the comments, or you can actually jump on here, like I said, if you'd like. But is that a recent post? So when we say he's back, because Bob and I both thought that he was basically going to retire to Italy. So if he's back and available, we maybe could try to get him back on here sometime. About a year old, she says. So let's check. We'll check that out, Alicia, and see if, because a year ago is about when we thought maybe he was going off the grid a little bit.
That's about when he said, goodbye, I'm going to Italy. Here's my Patreon account, send money. And that's the last I heard from him.
Yeah. And then quickly back to Hans. Hans put a post up on here, and Hans, we would love to see if we could have people help you out with some of your costs. And he's got a Facebook page where you could do a small contribution if you'd like to his PayPal account. And we always will promote people that are our community and that are, so if we could, it'd be great to have you guys give a little bit if you feel it in your heart. So anyway, just promoting that a little. Hans, anything else that you'd like to share today? Otherwise, we're going to have Hans on for an hour. He's going to actually give us some great demonstrations. So that'd be awesome.
So currently, the question came up, what can you do when you wake up with an ache or a pain in our mastermind group? So I need to sit down this afternoon and make out a presentation for other therapists, the simple things that they can do. And if I get therapists to actually do this on themselves, then they discover it's so easy to do it on their clients.
Oh yeah, if you can do anything on yourself and get rid of pain, which I'd love to learn that, because I will wake up in the morning, not just now as an older guy. I can remember back all through my life as an athlete that it's not at all unusual to have a very good or maybe not so good restful night and wake up with pain. Like I think I broke my big toe about 2 weeks ago, and the toenail's starting to come off, but I mean, it's not such a bad break that I needed to do anything with it. It swelled up pretty good. And then I dropped a tire iron on my foot and it didn't hit my big toe. It hit the toe next to it. I don't know what you call your second toe on your foot. And I have very big feet and really long toes. Well, anyway, I've been massaging it. I think I told the group I bought this amazing massage chair, and I don't ever have a problem promoting something I really like. And it's made by a company called Daiwa, a Korean company. And I do foot massages now, literally daily, with this massage chair. And it doesn't actually get right up in the toes, but it'll do all the rest of the foot. And it'll probably get, within probably that far up on the joints. I don't have my foot up here, obviously, but it helps. But shoot, if I could do something with my hands to do any kind of a massage of an area that's hurt, that'd be awesome. And again, I will wake up with that foot maybe every second or third morning, just because of
my Reflex Posturology site, one user of that wrote back that I followed your advice that I rubbed my little toe and my shoulder pain went away.
What? Say that again?
You're right.
Well, this lady responded after reading my post on Reflex Posturology. She says, I rubbed my little toe like you instructed, and my shoulder pain went away. So one of the instructors that I worked with in the past, during the class, she was asked, why did this person get this shoulder pain? And she says, because they stubbed their toe. So that's
well, and Bob, you're looking like, whoa, I don't know about that.
No, I get it. I just wanted to hear it again.
You've ever seen how much our hands and feet are tied to the rest of our bodies, and the reflexology side, it's amazing. And so I'm convinced that I've not had very many leg injuries in my whole 60 plus years of an athletic career now. And I mean, I've beat my body up, is because I'm very sensitive to my feet and and dealing with them and dealing with issues in them once I get them very quickly. And Yeah. So,
So every action that a person takes has to reach the ground. So that it's ground force. So you have to be able to support the rest of the body, each part of your foot doing its job. So the term antalgic posture means that antalgic means avoiding pain. Algia is the word for pain. So you have a posture when you've injured your little toe to avoid pain in the little toe, and then that overworks another part of your body, causing it to have pain.
really. So, Bob, it's going to be fun.
This is going to become the entire show here, the way this is going. So I'm just warning you right now. So
Yeah.
what I do, the Qigong, starts with your feet, barefoot, getting in touch with the 3 points of your foot, which is the point behind your big toe, the point behind your little toe, the heel, and then the bar that wraps around, and then getting both of your feet completely balanced, and then building posture from the ground up. And golf is also played from the ground up. So being conscious of where you are on the ground helps you stay in balance as you move. And that's true whether you're walking, whether you're running, whether you're swinging a golf club. What I'm not as familiar with, and I want to become more, is how individual injuries can be tied to a point on your foot that you can relieve pain by massaging that, because that's an element I think would be a valuable shortcut to removing pain, because Qigong takes a long time to get the body all realigned and build the fascia in the body so it supports the muscles, supports your posture into a perfect position. The information I'm very interested in. And furthermore, this being a personal issue, I've got something called the Dupuytren's contraction on my left hand. So I cannot.
And so check underneath then the corresponding toe on each foot, and
Right.
find where you have a tenderness on that's called the metatarsal, the bone that goes from the ankle to the toe.
Right.
And
You know what? Oh, go ahead. Keep going, Hans.
okay, so go ahead, Wayne, get your question.
Oh, I will get what you just, I didn't, by the way, Bob and I are great friends, know each other. I've never heard him, I didn't know that was an issue of his. But I get what I think are cramps that'll cause this hand. It doesn't happen on my right hand. And I always thought it's because I don't use my left hand as much, right? You know, I'm a tennis player. In golf, you use your left hand a lot, but I do a lot of my athletic stuff with my right arm, right hand. But my fingers will, I just used to think it was cramps, will end up in this position, both my little finger and this one. And I have to really work. And I sometimes have to push. And this is not just going on recently, it's been forever. And I always thought it was cramps. So this is another discussion for Hans and you and I at some point, because you gave it a name, Bob, and I don't even know. I just thought it was cramps that was causing my hand.
Well, but I've got an actual tendon in here that is fossilized almost, and it's got collagen built up, and it's tightening this down and bringing this finger down. So
what happens when you pick a golf club? Where does that finger go, Bob?
Well, fortunately, my hand is fine this way. It's straightening it out that's the problem. So I went to a doctor. This is a funny story. So I go to the doctor. It was probably about 2-3 years ago. It was before COVID, so I guess it's even longer than that. And some friend of mine from Rotary had 5 surgeries on both his hands for this. And he told me, it was a 3-month process, you're out. But I went to see the doctor because I'd read something about possibly injecting it with steroids or something that would make it go away. I went to a doctor and the doctor said, yeah, but it doesn't really work that well. Your surgery, I can definitely do something, but it's temporary. It'll come back. And I said, well, how long would the surgery take for me to be out? And he said, at least 3 months. And I said, so will I always be able to hold a golf club? They said, yeah, as long as you can, if you got strength in your fingers, you can still hold a golf club. And I said, done, I'm out. I never went back, never thought about it again. So I stopped wearing a golf glove. So I just put a piece of tape on the one finger where I get a callus, and I put a little bit oversized grips on, and I play without a golf glove because getting a glove on and off quickly with this finger sticking like this is a little bit of a challenge. So I just don't wear a glove.
Well, let's suspend for just a little bit, because I do have several other things I want to discuss today because they're relevant. And the whole point of doing this weekly is so we can kind of touch on relevant issues. One of them is PFAS. We talked about it last week, and I want to give you an update of where we're at on the PFAS issue. And then and the other one, it's really two others. Yeah, the second is a movie that Bob and I have both watched within the last week since we last talked that I want to talk a little bit
do that one next.
from a lot of perspectives. And third is AI. And again, what I've been doing over the last week, and even I want to show you a couple of programs that I've bought that I think are amazing. That again, there's all kinds of them for sale out there now. But this one was $37. So the reality is, I think it's well worth at least looking at. But mainly, I wanted to show you how it works with ChatGPT, which is free still, and which, by the way, went down earlier this week. And I don't know if I told Mark, I did tell Reed this yesterday. It went down for like 4 days. It kind of worried the crap out of me because we've done so many searches on ChatGPT that, and I'm not sure we saved all of them. Which, by the way, I would highly recommend if you're using ChatGPT at all right now for personal, for business, for any purpose. As soon as you're done with something, save it. All right, because it went down earlier for 3 days, 3.5 days, and I wasn't sure it would come back up, and we would have lost 100 hours worth of work, maybe. I don't know if it's that much, but a lot through the whole team.
100 hours if you weren't doing all the work and AI was doing.
Well, no, I'm talking about work we did as a team, all of us. Well, again, I'll share my screen in just a little bit here, and I could show you. Well, Mark, actually bring up also on another tab. We'll look at it. We're going to talk about something else first. But thanks so much for on soon. And we're going to talk about this topic of pain and all the things we were just discussing, Qigong, Qigolf, all those in one or more additional episodes. So we'll get back to that, everybody. And if Alicia's willing to unmute at some point, Mark, make sure we get her unmuted. She has been so awesome for us forever and has given a bunch of great sources today that we're gonna be looking to. She puts them on the chat, by the way. And when we publish this webinar and this podcast / webinar 2 days from now on the Eat Free site and our Eat Elite site, you should go look at it because we always publish the questions at the same time. And so, or whatever's with them. And by the way, Alicia's given, how many, Mark? There's 15 different sources she's given us here, all of which probably has to some of you some value. So there, and I'd like to talk with her privately at some point about Arthur Benjamin, for example, who just could be a speaker for us, and another one, Roy Desrosiers, who I've heard of, but I don't know him, and it's not so easy to get people you don't know. But anyway, she's done a great amount here. But Bob, let's talk about the movie we both watched over the last week. And quite honestly, this will be controversial. I am not going to say it's not, but I've been very open about my spirituality over the 7 years that we've been doing this. And and frankly, even before that, in blogs that we've done, and you name it. I'm a Christian, and that's just me. And yet, I think I'm a little different than a lot of Christians are. I wish that the others that were out there weren't this way, but I have huge respect for any other spirituality in the world, any, and all, and probably more than most others, only because one of my best friends and now feels like son in the world, Mark and Arif, are both Islamic and have and Reeve in a very strong way, and Mark also. So again, I do have, but that's my belief, and I'm very, very not just open to. I'm very. I hope you guys all know, very respectful of any other spiritual beliefs, and I really just hope that everybody has some kind of spirituality in their lives, because I think if you don't, you're going to have a deep hole, a pit that you're going to need to fill at some point. So a movie came out last week called Jesus Revolution, and it's about Christianity, and it's about a period of time when I was a young man, from 1968 to 1972, when a true revolution occurred. And I'm just going to give the background here quickly. Essentially, this is a movie that is based on a true story, and I will tell you this, it's very accurate. I have yet to find, have you, Bob, anything that's just completely inaccurate about what they portrayed? So, I mean, you could almost call it a historical documentary. I mean, a dramatic documentary, I guess, but it's based on a true story. 3 different people who are the lead characters, Greg Laurie, Chuck Smith, and Lonnie Frisbee, have all been the founders of different spiritual organizations, 3 different spiritual organizations. They are all linked together in this movie in that period between 1968 and 1972. The location for it is Southern California, where I was growing up at that time. I was a young man. So in 1968, I was a senior in high school. And I went away for college for a couple of those years in between, but then was back in 1971 and attended UC Irvine, which is literally 3 miles as the crow flies, or even less, from a place that's prominent in this movie, which is called Pirates Cove. This first church that Chuck Smith founded, called Calvary, was located in Newport Beach, and again, less than a couple of miles from where I was at. Anyway, these 3 organizations that these guys founded, each one of them is called Harvest, the other's called Calvary, and the third's called the Vineyard, have over 1,000 different places of worship, churches, as we call them in the US, throughout the world now. And we're now, what, 50 years later, but pretty successful in terms of what these guys did to promote what they believed. And the movie is really about them. But I will tell you this, and you're seeing a guy on the screen to my left as I'm standing here, I know of at least 10 people that have been highly impacted by it in their lives. And Bob's one of them, so I'm going to just turn it over to him.
Well, it's interesting that this all is happening right now from my perspective. So my son, who is part of the Chi Golf movement, in fact, is the primary person that will take it forward. I'm not going to be around forever, and he's 35 years younger than I am, has kind of embraced spirituality. And just a little background is I was raised strict Catholic, rebelled completely against it, went to Catholic grammar school, Catholic high school, Catholic college, and I got my morality, my spirituality from it, but I didn't embrace the man-made religious part of it, and kind of stayed away from it, to the extent that when I went to Italy to, the churches in Italy have been there for thousands of years, and they're beautiful. Didn't want to be hypocritical by going into a church when I was there to look at the church as if it was an archaeological site. And that was just in my head. So he's been working on me for the last 5 years. I did not raise him as a Catholic. He was baptized early on, but that was pretty much it. He explored the religious aspects on his own, found his own spirituality, and had been working on me. But, the father-son relationship's a little tough when you're used to being the leader and the child is used to being the follower, and now the roles are reversing. So, and I've never been very good at doing anything I was told to do. So again, I did have it. I just had suppressed it quite a bit. The last few years with political turmoil and so forth, I really felt there was something missing, not only in me, but in the world. And I became more interested in spirituality and realized that when I'm doing Qigong, I am feeling spirituality. I'm feeling the ground. I'm feeling the sun. I'm feeling things that are much bigger than I am, and connecting myself to others through it. The movie came out. I read about it, and I said, I've got to go see that movie. Well, when it came out on February 24th, I remember the date, and it was only in limited theaters, and the closest one to me was 100 miles away. Well, I wasn't going to drive 100 miles to go see a movie. Like a week and a half later, the movie came locally, and it was because more people went to see it than they expected. At the time, they expected maybe 2 million people would ever see the movie. And I can tell you that as of recently, it's been over 50 million. And it was my belief that not only was it an important movie for me, it was an important movie for the world. I went to see it, and it impacted me in a way that I am unable to describe. And I only had one person, and I've talked to a lot of people about this movie. Almost every one of them has gone to see it, and when they saw it, had a similar reaction to what I had. The only person that objected was an atheist, and she was offended by the fact that anything that was religious in any way would be impactful. So all I can say about that kind of a mindset is it's probably not one that I'll ever understand, nor do I want to, for that matter. So I'd had an issue with my son recently, and I felt that the movie was a way for us to get back together again. I drove to Riverside. He was caddying at an event in Riverside, and the winner of the qualifiers that he was caddying in was going to be able to play on the senior tour in Newport the following week. And that my head went ding, 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 too many connections here. I just have to go. So I drove to Riverside. They qualified in the first round. We went to see the movie the next day. The following Monday, they were in the final qualifier to get into it, and unfortunately didn't make it. But in the meantime, he took many people to see the movie. I've had my other kids go see the movie, and many friends, and it's just the right movie for the time that we're in right now. And it's reconnected me in a way to spirituality that I frankly didn't know existed. And it's made me interested more than ever before. And I always was saying to myself, don't be that guy who rejects it all your life, and then when you get older, re-embrace it because you want to be saved. That's not what's going on. It's just, it's a feeling that I've never had. And so the movie had that impact. Now I've got to go see services that'll have a similar impact, and then I'll be really on my way, so to speak. And so I encourage everyone to go see it and make their own decision.
By the way, Alicia says, good for you, Bob. And she asked me questions about, any connection, well, no, she made a statement. We all need connection to a spiritual higher power, and said, any thoughts? My thoughts on that are very simple. One word, absolutely. And honestly, Bob and I did not over the years talk that much about spirituality. I'm going to ask him a question now. I've never asked this. Do you think that, at least what you've seen, that I live out at least the spirituality that Jesus would say? I mean, not that I'm not nearly where I need to be in terms of promoting it, and I want to be more so, but I hope that I live it out. And I only say that it's just me, and you absolutely do, Bob. I mean, you've had this spirituality in your heart. It was just this movie probably just brought it to the surface, I think. But I gave that example of how long these ministries these guys have been around now, and how successful they've been, to show that we need something like this in the world right now, everybody. Why has there not been another revolution in a positive way like that Jesus revolution in 1968? Why have we not had another?
Maybe this is it.
I hope so.
Me too. Me too. I mean, the fact that it's here now, the fact that Asbury College, among others, have been having 24-hour ongoing musical and spiritual ceremonies going on in colleges, which have been the bastion of anti-religious indoctrination, tells me that enough people are just realizing what the people in the movie realized, which is something is missing. The answers that I'm looking for aren't giving me the answer, and maybe it is Jesus. And I could never even say that word until recently. So that just goes to show how far it impacted me. So what really impacted me more than anything else was seeing the joy and the community and spirituality in a religious-like community, a religious ceremony that I never felt ever in my entire life, being grown up with it. And it was like, wow. I mean, if I felt that ever before, I'd still be there. So now I know it exists. I didn't know it existed. And I didn't want to go find out, because I didn't expect that anything that man was involved with could be as good as that was. And maybe it isn't man that's doing it. And that's the thing that I had to figure out.
Yeah, and Bob, I still owe you. I need to get it for you. Some thoughts on somewhere you could go and then get into the community that you really should get into.
There is Harvest here, there is Calvary here, and there is Alive here. So I got 3 options, and there's multiple units of both Harvest and Calvary. So I probably have 5 within 10 miles of my house.
And don't feel bad about shopping and figuring out as you get.
I mean, I want to feel that again, and if I walk in and feel it, I'm staying.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you should do.
Right.
Alicia said, sounds like biblical prophecy for the end times. Yeah, it does, Alicia. And one of the things that God and Christ were clear about. I am pretty knowledgeable about what the Bible says about things. We don't know what end times are, and God's not going to let us know. I mean, that's not for us to. But so we can't really speculate. And how do you define? Is that? I mean, human beings have been around, and we're pretty clear now for millions of years. So God's been pretty patient for a long time, and at this point,
to other
Alicia, is that you?
Well, they're bringing up their experience.
Alicia, is that you? I thought it was an echo for a minute of mine, because sometimes we get that.
Sounded
think
like
Hans was
Alicia
there.
and Hans.
Yeah, I think Alicia and Hans were there. I don't know, we lost them. We're not going to get to the AI today. We're almost at the top of the hour here, so we're going to get 5 more minutes, and we're going to be respectful of our hour. Bob, you brought something else earlier that I want to recommend, and Mark, you and Arit should help me and get this done. We should start taking and get aggressive through emails or whatever to ask people to send us questions. Just like I didn't realize that's what Rogan did. Is that what it is? Was it Rogan you said does that?
Barnes. That was Barnes.
Barnes does it. Barnes. So it's Bourbon Hour. Yeah, that makes lots of sense. I mean, that's very because Bob and I are more than willing to be thinking about questions through the week and be able to, and we'll be very respectful to see if we can come up with some good answers and some good thoughts. And that's the whole point of this kind of discussion, is to have dialogue. Dr. Jeremiah is an amazing person, by the way, Alicia. I'm a huge fan. So yeah, Dr. David Michael Jeremiah is somebody that I've read a bunch from him and seen some stuff, but I haven't recently. And by the way, that's the key to any healthy spiritual relationship, is truly community. And in that community, where the willingness of everybody, or as many people in the community as possible, to be transparent about their strengths, their weaknesses, their fears, their needs, their successes, everything. When you find the right place, Bob, it's a place where you get that. I mean, and I've told you, I've been kind of lucky over the last now 37 years, and that I moved 3 times in that time frame, and in all 3 instances, pretty quickly, I found a place that I continued to stay at then for all the rest of the time that I was there, that I felt unbelievable about, and had that community. So the place I've been going now for 17 years here, called Grace Place. The other place I was at for 16, 17 years down in the Parker area, called Grace Chapel. And then before that, a place called Cole Community in Boise. Those were the last 35 years, 36 years. That's lucky, because a lot of people don't find that. They end up somewhere that they just kind of end up and stay at, and don't necessarily get that feeling of community. So make sure you get that. And I think it's either good or bad. It's usually very much associated with the people who are leaders there. So you're going to want to feel, don't just go to a service. Have a meeting go to the service and then have a meeting with one or more of the pastors. Seriously, and make sure you feel really good with them.
So I want to answer the question that you asked before, but you didn't give me a chance to answer, which is, are you expressing your spirituality appropriately? And the answer is without doubt.
Yeah.
So we all have moments when we wish we had reacted to something a little differently, but vast majority of the times you're right on point. So you are expressing.
Yeah. And the reason I ask it, Bob, is this. It's hard, in you and I both, we have very similar attitudes this way, to be spiritually conservative and be very clear in what I believe, and yet to be incredibly environmentally liberal and ecologically, and yet not liberal. It's interesting. I say that, and that's not really the right view. So I'll give the best example I can give here is related to climate change. And we have not had very many discussions about climate change, because I've actually been sort of afraid to have them, because I have some pretty strong views as a scientist about it, which are very different than what the press, I'm going to use that word, and maybe political leaders would say are the only views that you should have. I mean, they very clearly say the only views you should have is that we are in an extreme period of climate warming, and that the way that we get rid of it is get rid of carbon dioxide in the air. So I'm just going to say this one little controversial one. That's BS on the science perspective. And I'll stand on stage. I'll go in front of whoever, whatever the top level scientists you want to put with me to debate, and tell them water vapor has 99% of what changes our climate. Carbon dioxide has less than 1%. That's fact. No scientist will dispute that.
Too bad you're breaking up right now. You're gonna have to repeat yourself.
Water vapor. Am I back? Did I go?
Yeah, you're back
Am I
now.
back?
Yeah, you're back.
It related to the impact of elements in the atmosphere on climate. By far, the biggest impact on climate, and any meteorologist and any meteorological scientist that you ask, if they really were honest with you, would admit this is true, is water vapor. Water vapor will have 99% of the impact on what climate is, not carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide has a minimal impact on climate. Why do we make it sound like it is the most important thing in the world?
Pick everything.
I have my opinions on that, and that's a whole nother discussion.
It's all politics, and you don't want to get into that right now. We'll be on for many hours.
It's all politics, yes.
Yes.
And it really has very little to do with science. That's what's sort of, and yet that belief that I just gave is way more controversial than any spirituality belief that we were just talking about.
Well, the one thing that you said that I want to challenge you on is that you said you're spiritually conservative but environmentally liberal, and I would say that your environmental postures are conservative as well, conserving what's there, making it work. You're not liberal in the sense that you're trying to fight Mother Nature. You're trying to work with Mother Nature.
Yeah, and again, I think Dennis Weaver said it best. If you take the environmental spectrum and you make it linear, and you say that over on the right is somebody like Ted Nugent, who is very concerned about the environment, but yet his views on how to manage it are very human oriented. I'll just say that. And then you go way to the left and go to Earth First, which is probably about as far left. There are some more even more radical. I'm going to be way closer to Ted Nugent than I am to Earth First. So yes, Bob, that spectrum I would be considered to be conservative. Dennis Weaver would say he would have been right about in the middle, that maybe leaning towards Nugent and not towards Earth First, but in the middle. I'm not in the middle. No, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that there's a lot of things we're doing that are screwing this planet up. And if at any time our sometime here meaning I'm in my lifetime, needing something like that. My grandkids for sure are going to have food problems. It has nothing to do with climate. It has to do with how we're screwing the soils up and how we're bringing food in from 2,000 miles away.
Great place to start this week, right?
We're not going to solve. Yeah, we're over time here. So I think we had Alicia for about 1/10 of a second. Didn't we not, Mark? Yeah. Yeah. Mark, would you throw our quickly, we're going over time. You could stop the broadcast. I want to show Bob this. Could you share the screen with me? Or let me, you give me the screen, or can I just take it? I always forget on this whether I can just take it. So stop the broadcast. Everybody, we are done. Thank you, but we're going to leave it on. You're more than welcome to stay on with us, but we're going to stop the recording. Okay, Mark? Alicia, you can stay on if you like. We're just going to chat here for a second. I want to show Bob some of these tools that I thought we'd be talking about today that he and I haven't had a chance to talk about. So Bob, this is the one that you're going to really want to be able to look at.
This is director.
No, that's another really one. I'll show you that one in just a second. I'm going to go to that one next, but this is GPT Zine.
GPT-Z?
Zine. Are you not? Am I sharing my screen?
Yeah.
Why does it say here there are no polls associated with this webinar? I've never seen that before, Mark. I mean, I know there aren't. So what? Manage polls. I don't know what that means. Yeah, I know we can do polls. That's not what I'm talking about. This is here.
Let me get some water. I'll be right back.
Mark, this is the one I talked about yesterday. So you're seeing it on my screen. Okay, then I want to get, how do I get to the other screen? Let me see here. There it is. Now I have it. Yeah, this is the new one I just got that literally 2 days ago. By the way, when you post this, Mark, stop it right when we ended. Don't put this stuff on. Okay. All right. Bob, so you see the screen? This is the new program that I got.
Is it something new?
Oh, brand new.
Okay.
3 days old. And I don't mean just that I've had it 3 days. It is 3 days old.
Yeah. Now, is this a successor to ChatGPT, or is this something different altogether?
No. This is just a guy who created an app program to utilize ChatGPT. So
Okay.
I will show you something. So this is GPT Zine. This is ChatGPT coming up next.
Yeah.
And this is, what in the heck just happened to it? That was weird. Why'd that go away? I just clicked on it and it went away.
Too many windows open?
No, it just was doing. So over here, Bob, this is how much we as a team have used this.
Yeah.
Look at this.
By the way, just so I copy every time I do a session and copy it into a Google Doc so I can get to it again.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna, my system's a little slow here. This has been the one I've just been working on. So
Yeah.
here I'll show you how much I've done of this.
All right. So this is copied and pasted out of ChatGPT.
Yes. Yeah, when it went down, that was a real wake-up call for us.
Yeah.
That we needed to. So chat or GPT Zine is unbelievable in the number of things that it will do for any given topic. So you would put in here, Bob, She Golf, let's say, all right, as your title for that project. So you can do multiple projects. This is just one of the many projects that I have. And then you start and go through and you can just pick them out, but start with a customer profile. That one you probably do want to do first, which it then will lead you through a bunch of questions. So look down here, it says, give me a detailed ideal customer profile. So I would copy that, put it into GPT. I've already done it, so I'm not going to do it again here now.
Right.
But,
Got it.
but let me show you what it showed. I bet I've got 100,000. I bet I've got 10 books worth of stuff just with this one search. I'm not even close to the top yet, Bob. This is ecological aquaculture. I'm getting there.
I know. I can hear you scrolling.
Well, you can kind of see it on the screen as it's going. Look at the code that it gave. This is code to help your site get better SEO.
Wow.
So if you embed this inside, and Mark's going to be doing this for our Kajabi sites,